Well, I predicted this would happen, did I not? I told you, you know what? They're not going to be able to pay all those big salaries for all those egos over there at MSNBC or whatever it's called right now. MS Now or something, the whole thing is just wrong. But, the industry is just wrong. And now you see some anchors feeling the effects of that. We're going to talk about the shakeup at MSNBC today. Plus, does Donald Trump have a Tulsi problem? I'm just going to throw this out there. Maybe not a Tulsi problem, maybe just a Tulsi staff problem. But then again, isn't she responsible for her staff? This Joe Kent thing, oh my gosh, my sources are telling me some things that, we don't even want to think, okay? But we have to have that conversation right now because I'm really wondering about this guy. Really wondering about this guy and his wife. The new one. I know he's widowed and everything, but the new one, I'll fill you in. Plus, Ilhan decided to take on the Pentagon. Maybe not the best idea when everybody's clamoring for you to be deported. I hope you guys had a fantastic St. Patrick's Day. I most definitely did. I'm out of the green today, but still in the, New England wintry sweater look. It's great to have you here. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you share. Make a comment. All that good stuff. This is the Trish Regan Show live, and I am Trish Regan. Quick reminder as well, don't forget to check out my financial newsletter, my other business. I kind of care about the stock market, believe it or not. So Jerome Powell saying a few things today, getting people a little bit spooked, but not budging on interest rates. All that said, there's plenty of room for upside if you know how to go about this. So check out the 76 report. Use my code word dollar, DOLLAR. One of our stocks, gosh darn it, up 124% in the last 4 weeks. So pretty good stuff. Turning to Morning Joe, getting demoted here. Mika and Joe Scarborough, I guess that's Mr. and Mrs. Scarborough. They are going back to 3 hours instead of 4. They're losing an entire hour of programming. Now, before you say, oh, yeah, that's not such a big deal, I'm going to tell you, yeah, it's a big deal. Because in television, you never want to go down, right? You only want to go up. It is never actually a good thing to do less work because it actually signals that probably the network did not want to pay you what they were paying you before. And, it would make sense, right? Where are they going to go? I guess they could try and do a podcast. I'm not sure they have the je ne sais quoi for a podcast. Let me tell you, this is real talent over here, right? How many people could sustain an entire hour and a half all by their lonesomes? I don't know. Maybe they are talkers. Who knows? They do have a lot of people on set, though. And think about all those people on set. They cost money, too. So before it's all said and done, this new network that's just been spun out, whose stock price has just been massacred, I'm going to get to that. Versant. I like it to give it a little, French flair. Versant, as the New Yorkers would call it. So Versant is not doing so well. So Versant has to look for some budget cuts wherever they can get them. And it looks as though the morning show is first on the list. They have some other people too. They're moving other people around, and some people are losing their shows and being moved to other positions, etc. This is new management's opportunity to remake this network as MS Now. Don't forget, Rachel Maddow, I think she's gone. They've got that Chris Hayes, who's basically Rachel Maddow, on Monday nights for an hour. They cut one of their shows that I don't even know what it's called, but there's a zillion people on it. It's 50 people on it. And they're on now just for an hour on Monday nights because Chris Hayes is going to be there. It's not looking good. But you know what? As I've said before, it's a really declining industry, and it's not a great industry to be in right now unless maybe you're Fox or Newsmax, because there's not a lot of viewership. I think people have felt very, very burned by the liberal media. And you're seeing that, reflected in all the ratings right now. The ratings are very challenged. And by the way, even if they aren't challenged, because I think Morning and Joe would say, no, we're doing okay. We're no Fox, right? But we're doing okay. I think the reality of the situation is so many other people are able to do more with less. And so your margins are getting compressed. And when your talent wants more and more and more, as I'm sure these two do, as a network, you don't have that ability to pay them more when the advertising dollars are down. And the advertising dollars are down in network television and cable television. Why? Because dun-da-da, you can come right over here. And there's all this ability for advertisers to know whether or not you're really here, number one. And two, if you really like Trish Regan, you're probably going to be here and they know how to find you. And we'll get to some advertisers later in the show. We thank them for all their support. But it's just a completely different model nowadays. And these cable networks are sort of scrambling, right? Trying to play catch up. It's sort of funny to watch. Boy, am I glad I got out. Boy, am I glad I got out. By the way, the president is he can add this as one of his trophies because he's been very proud of all these changes that have been coming in the media business. He actually sent this out on Truth Social last night, and he's making the point that all kinds of things have happened. Winning. The Guardian says Donald Trump is waging war against the media and winning. So he's just asking the media, really, when you think about it, to offer both sides. And they don't want to offer both sides, right? They've been so indoctrinated and they're part of this liberal nutjob camp that they only offer one side. And if you ask me, if you offer both sides, you might actually have more people watching. Like, it's kind of entertaining to see both sides. What do you think is the best rated show on CNN right now? The one with Scott Jennings, right? Because Scott Jennings is like pow, pow, pow. He takes everybody out really quickly, really elegantly. And the poor anchor, whatever her name is, she's just standing there with her mouth gasping open like she doesn't know what hit her as she tries to tell us that there's no relation between the Muslim extremism, faith of some of these people that have committed these horrific attacks and the 4 terror attacks that happened in the U.S. over the last couple of weeks. So you got Colbert leaving CBS. You've got a big decline in MSM ratings. You've got Joy Reid out at MSNBC. She was one of the first ones they got rid of, don't forget, at MSNBC. I remember Joe Scarborough coming in the next day. I saw some footage of him in a shirt and tie after Donald Trump had won the election. I said, well, things have changed over there. We can't be wearing our hoodies anymore. We got a real president. We got PBS being defunded, NPR being defunded, Terry Moran out at ABC. And boy, did he show his true colors as soon as he left, right? 1 foot out the door, and he starts his little Substack newsletter and tells us all how he's really a liberal. Okay, Chuck Todd out at NBC, John Dickerson out at CBS. So the list goes on, and he can say, you know what? I reduced Mika and Joe's show by an hour. Now they're going to say, oh, it's fine. We wanted to work less. But remember what I told you. In television, you don't actually want to work less. You want to work more. You want them to need you more and more and more. You want to take over the entire network, don't you? Hey, if you could be on the air 8 hours a day and they'd pay you for it, I bet these two would. So they're getting, my suspicion here is that they wanted more money and the network's like, oh my gosh, we're bleeding cash. We can't actually do this. Again, I'll get to the stock price momentarily, but they don't have the bandwidth to be able to pay these two any more money. And don't forget, as I said, the public is done. The public is over it. The public already feels cheated. You go all the way back to, I think this was 2017. You had Mika Brzezinski trying to say that it was our job, as in the media's job, to shape public opinion. Not the president's. How dare he, right? This is great. Watch.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I hear. What Yamiche just said is what I hear from all the Trump supporters that I talk to who were Trump voters and are still Trump supporters. They go, yeah, you guys are going crazy. He's doing, what are you so surprised about? He's doing exactly what he said he's going to do.
Well, and I think that the dangerous, edges here are that he's trying to undermine the media, trying to make up his own facts. And it could be that while unemployment and the economy worsens, he could have undermined the messaging so much that he can actually control exactly what people think. And that is our job.
Yeah, if you look at the issues.
He's trying to help out the wifey there, jumping in, trying to save her from herself, as she says. That is our job. Because we're going to control what you think. I don't think so. I think the American public knows better. And you know what? This is one of the reasons why he was elected. So you look at this massive decline, right? In the industry as a whole, people don't trust it anymore. They're looking at things like X. He puts that on there. X, because you have free speech on X. And so, hey, if you actually want to find the truth out on something, guess what you got to do? You got to do a little bit of research, but I think people are okay with it. They want to do their due diligence as long as they get access to it. They didn't get access before, and all of a sudden, it's a whole new world out there, right? With podcasts, with X, with obviously what we're doing here on YouTube, and please check us out on Spotify as well. It's just an incredibly different world, and it's changing so quickly. I say this all the time. I mean, back in the days when I worked at some of those big networks, we would spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on a live truck just to have somebody standing outside, the corner store. And now we're here. I'm able to do this from my studio, bringing this live to you. It's actually really incredible. Sometimes you got to pinch me. Just thank goodness I'm not back in those mainstream media networks. And, I wish them all the best. I mean, they got Rosie O'Donnell against them, right? So we have to wish them well. I wish them all the best. Honestly, you know what? If you're good, you're good. And if you're good, you will rise to the occasion. And frankly, the occasion is not MSNBC, nor CNN, nor even, dare I say, Fox News, one of my former employers. None of these guys matter anymore because it's only you and me and basically this whole new medium that truly counts. And so the smart ones, and Rachel Maddow, we never said she wasn't smart as a fox, right? She's getting out. She got herself out of there, and maybe these two will figure out a way as well. They don't have a choice. Here we are looking at Versant. This is, I think, in the Hollywood Reporter the other day, that spinoff, Versant, from NBC Universal that owns CNBC. That actually is a good network. MS Now. It's been forced to be a good network. You know why? Because when you have just stock tickers on, you could put any monkey on the screen and people used to be able to watch it or would watch it just because of the ticker that would go across. And what they figured out is they had to have more value add and they had to be more neutral because it's money. And I always say this, like one of the benefits of being a business reporter is that you're only caring about the final outcome here. You have to have the ability to cut through the noise, and none of the political reporters have that ability. Sometimes they think they're just not as smart. It will be what it will be, but CNBC is a better network. Golf Channel, also kind of a good network because they have that monopoly on golf. But they have MS Now, they have USA, Golf Channel, CNBC, some other assets, and they had their first earnings report just a couple of weeks ago. All right, a couple of weeks ago, and it turns out that they had revenue of $6.69 billion, which was down 3.3% from 2024. So revenue's going down. Okay, and a lot of that, remember, is distribution revenue. And we've talked about this before. The distribution revenue, it's going to dry up at some point because nobody needs to have cable anymore. And so nobody's going to be paying these cable networks these distribution fees. That's how they make their money. Think about that. They've got the majority of the revenue coming from distribution as opposed to advertising dollars. It's the opposite of what we see over here in podcast world, where it's all coming from advertising dollars, whether it be programmatic advertising dollars or individual ads that we have on the show. It's all coming from advertising. This is all coming from distribution revenue. And once that's gone, you have no business. You have absolutely no business at all. And so this is why, what did I tell you? Don't buy the stock. I think I've said that. Like, I rarely come out and really, like I don't like short positions because, I'm bullish on America. I'm long. But this is one that I just would have been like, whoa, stay away from. Versant Media Group. Look at that stock price down 23% since its debut, which was in mid-December. Okay, so this one's brutal. This one's lousy. This is down 23%. Today, looking like it's losing another 5%. So there you go. Mika and Joe, you can feel better about yourselves. Investors are like, oh, Mika and Joe are going. Maybe we should trade the stock down even more. No, that's not actually it. What it really is about is that the cutback in the Mika and Joe time is symptomatic of what's happening within the industry. This is about a total industry decline. And so investors are realizing that and saying, gee, I better hightail it out of this thing while I still can, right? All right, I want to get to Tulsi Gabbard. I want to get to the hearings on Capitol Hill today. But first, I want to thank one of our great sponsors here on the show. We were just talking about sponsors, were we not? We were just talking about sponsors, and these guys are terrific. I want you to go check out Policy Genius when you can. You can go to policygenius.com/Regan for all the information. I mean, this is insurance, okay? And, I know I'm in the financial news business and all that stuff, but I'll tell you. And so it makes sense that I would like insurance, I guess, but I've always liked insurance going back to, and some of you guys have heard this story before, when I was in high school and there were two twin boys that started at my high school, and they lost their dad like weeks before they started at school. And one of the most horrific things about it, he had a heart attack unexpectedly. And they were like 14 years old, freshmen in high school. And so their mom was really left in a pretty tough predicament, and especially because her husband did not have life insurance. He actually canceled his life insurance or didn't pay his life, something like that, right before this all happened. And so that kind of just stuck with me from the time I was 14 years old. So as a result, I'm always like, insurance. And you want the life insurance, right? Term and whole, by the way. If you can't just get whole, because whole's expensive, you want to make sure if you have a family, you get the term. I really encourage you to take a look at that. I mean, and these guys are great because at policygenius.com, they actually can help to get get you the lowest possible rate. They can make that match for you. And that's really important. So protect the life you've built, okay? With Policy Genius, you can see if you can find a 20-year life insurance policy that may be just starting at $276, forgive me, a year for $1 million in coverage. I mean, that's pretty great. Head over to policygenius.com/REGAN to compare life insurance quotes from top companies and see how much you could save. Again, policygenius.com. And here you go. You can see the website right there. I encourage you to check it out. All right. I want to turn to a sensitive issue. Does Donald Trump have a Tulsi problem? I want to talk about what happened there on Capitol Hill today. I'm looking at the lower third right there. And yes, she did smoke the Democrats on some of what she talked about, especially as it relates to what apparently may or may not have happened down in Fulton County, as you recall. So we'll start with the good news, okay? So Tulsi Gabbard on Capitol Hill today, and she was asked some questions about why it was that she was there in Fulton County, Fulton County. And so she had this answer. I want to go to Tulsi Gabbard with Senator Warren on the FBI's presence there in Fulton County and why it is that she, as head of DNI, was there as well.
I want to correct one of your statements that you've made multiple times, which is false. I did not participate in a law enforcement activity, nor would I, because that does not exist within my authorities.
You were present on the scene. Are the photos of you on the scene false?
I was at Fulton County, sir, at the request of the president, and to work with the FBI to observe this action that had long been awaited. I was not aware of what was in the warrant or was not in the warrant.
And what was the president's specific request for you to go to? What was the specific request that was made by the president for you to show up in Fulton County?
To go and observe the FBI's activities on this issue.
So
when you look at the fort, your question, sir.
Do you have the answer why the president was knowing about this affidavit before it was even served?
I'm not aware that the president knew about an affidavit before it was served.
Then why was he sending you to Fulton County?
This occurred the day that the FBI had it approved, their warrant approved by a local judge, and they began to execute this. To address your question, sir, about the foreign nexus question, in order for us...
Okay, so you remember that day well. Remember when we found out that the FBI was down in Georgia and they were in Fulton County to get 700 boxes of ballots? And Rudy Giuliani actually at the time tweeted out these pictures, and you could see that the deputy director of the FBI was on the scene. You had Tulsi Gabbard apparently there as well. And so that's what that question was about, just exactly why was Tulsi Gabbard there at that moment? And there are a lot of questions as to what may or may not have gone down there in Georgia in 2020. There are also new questions that have come up in Arizona about what went down in 2024. And by the way, Donald Trump won Arizona. The thinking is that, it does relate back to the Save America Act, because you want to make sure that everybody who's voting in these elections should be eligible to vote in these elections. And so this is perhaps what they're trying to get at with the Fulton County stuff. And that's what she was asked about. Just to jog your memory again, let's go back to the Fox report that day.
Agents retrieved documents, phones, computers, ballot boxes. After a judge signed a warrant, President Trump has long made Georgia and Fulton County a target of his complaints regarding the 2020 election.
It was kind of disbelief. It's been a long time in coming, I think, and getting a lot of the answers that need to be given.
This is an order from on high to try to disrupt Fulton County's election administration just because Donald Trump is still mad that he lost the 2020 elections.
Okay. So they think that's what it's about. And granted, to a certain extent, like maybe it's stemmed from a little bit of that, right? But I think it's taken on a new life of its own, and that they're trying to get to the bottom of this. And it's now a full-fledged investigation with 700 boxes being carried out by the FBI as they try and figure out just exactly what's going on. And the Democrats are coming apart at the seams, right? Which is why you saw that kind of questioning from Warner, et cetera, today. Some people saying, gosh, Warner sounds like he's got something to hide. He sounds like he's nervous. what is the big deal? Like, to do an audit on this stuff? I'm not entirely sure I get that, but look at this woman hyperventilating. Let me take you back to Fulton County, Georgia, where they just got hit over the head with all of this as the FBI swooped in.
Hey everybody, so here's an update. We're at the elections hub right here off Fairburn Road, and they did correct the warrant, and they are now in there getting the documents. 700 boxes of 2020 ballots and accompanying things that go with it, you know, absentee ballots, all the things, right? So our clerk of Superior Court, Shay Alexander, is in there making a log of everything that they're taking, but this is like all wrong. So we're trying to figure out a legal plan, and we should have one, whether that's an injunction, whether a motion to quash, I mean, whatever it is, we're trying to figure it out right now, because this is an attack on our elections, meant to keep you from trying to go to the polls in November, being too afraid to change what's going on in our nation. So instead of worrying about people dying in Minnesota, here we are at the Fulton County Elections Hub. So let me go find out what the legal plan is.
Okay, so that's Mo Ivory. She's in charge of the elections.
Listen,
and she's back really fast.
You're watching the news, you're seeing a lot of stuff about this FBI raid at the Fulton County elections and registrations. I'm on the inside right now. So I just want you to be like real discerning about all that you're hearing from people who are on the outside of what's going on. I'm going to give you the truth about what's happening. So they served a warrant, the FBI, this is Trump, serving a warrant to go pick up the 2020 ballots, which are in a secure location inside of here, 700 boxes. The first warrant that they gave was incorrect legally, like they didn't follow the right procedure. They went back and they fixed it, and they came back, and now they are actually collecting the boxes.
Oh my gosh.
They
so
are
now
in
they're
the
going to
command.
actually be looking at this, and now they're like, oh, well, we can't guarantee that the ballots are secure and the safety and what they're going to do with it. So gosh darn it. This is a paranoia on a whole other scale. So that's going on in Fulton County, Georgia. But let's talk about D.C. Let's talk about Washington, D.C. and whether or not the president is having some issues as it relates to one Tulsi Gabbard. Tulsi Gabbard being asked about Iran today, being asked about Joe Kent, remember he was her deputy effectively, and why it is that he resigned in such a huff. By the way, such a huff. His letter was like blaming Israel in the second sentence, for goodness sakes. And this is causing me, and you know I'm fully transparent with you all the time. What you see is what you get. This is causing me to kind of wonder a little bit about Tulsi, and certainly maybe not about her entirely, but gosh darn it, the people she's employing, because what we now know and what is coming out about this guy is very problematic. Let's listen to her in today's hearings, but first, keep in mind what the president has been saying. The president of the United States has been very, very bullish, very happy about how things are going in Iran, pointing out, you know, we've taken out 1, 2, 3 leadership teams. And just remember this as we think about what Tulsi is now telling us, and ask yourself the question whether these two things gel. Here we go. The president of the United States on Iran speaking last night.
I have Marco here. We have a lot of our great people. JD is here. They're all here, and I say, let's do this. We got to do it right. Should have been done by many presidents. Should have been done long before 47 years. It's 40 years of living in terror. You know, they're called the bully of the Middle East, but they're really the bully of the world, because he used oil to bribe, right? They used oil to bribe and to, you know, gain power. I don't know what they gained. What did they gain? What the hell? How are they doing? Not so good. They're all gone now. Every one of them. They're all gone.
They're all gone now. Every one of them, they're all gone. Now let's go to Tulsi Gabbard speaking on Capitol Hill today.
The IC assesses the regime in Iran appears to be intact but largely degraded due to attacks on its leadership and military capabilities. Its conventional military power projection capabilities have largely been destroyed, leaving limited options. Iran's strategic position has been significantly degraded.
Okay, I'm hearing a different story, right? From what the president told us and what Tulsi Gabbard is telling us. And she's saying, look, you know, they've suffered some issues, but, you know, they're still largely intact, which makes me think she sounds a little bit like a CNN anchor right about now. I just look at this and I say, okay, you know, you got the 3 top people that had taken over. You got one of them apparently in a coma, if that. And I kind of consider that a pretty decent thing, right? But no, she doesn't really have a very grand assessment of this. She doesn't seem to think we're doing all that well just yet. And on top of that, she really doesn't give the kind of answer you would expect when being asked about the president making the decision himself on Iran. Listen.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was an imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime?
The intelligence community assessed that Iran maintained the intention to rebuild and to continue to grow their nuclear enrichment capability.
Was it the assessment of the intelligence community that there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime, yes or no?
Senator, the only person who can determine what is and is not an imminent threat is the president.
False. This is the worldwide threats hearing where you present to Congress national intelligence, timely, objective, and independent of political considerations. You've stated today that the intelligence community's assessment is that Iran's nuclear enrichment program was obliterated and that, quote, there had been no efforts since then to try to rebuild their enrichment capability. Was it the intelligence community's assessment that nevertheless, despite this obliteration, there was a, quote, imminent nuclear threat posed by the Iranian regime? Yes or no?
It is not the intelligence community's responsibility to determine what is and is not an imminent threat.
Okay.
That is up to the president based on a volume of information that he receives.
It is precisely your responsibility to determine what constitutes a threat to the United States. This is the worldwide threats hearing.
Okay. So again, I'm just saying that, you know, she could have been maybe just a little teeny bit more emphatic. Here she is on Twitter last night. Donald Trump was overwhelmingly elected by the American people to be our president and commander-in-chief. As our commander-in-chief, he is responsible for determining what is and is not an imminent threat. Okay, I agree with that. Yeah, it's the president's decision, which is, by the way, why I'd say everybody should just take a deep breath. You elected the guy, like have a little bit of faith, thank you very much, and whether or not to take action he deems necessary to protect the safety and security of our troops, the American people, and our country. The Office of the Director of National Intelligence is responsible for helping coordinate and integrate all intelligence to provide the president and commander-in-chief with the best possible information available to inform his decisions. All right, well, just given what just went down with Joe Kent, like maybe you could have offered a little bit more of an emphatic endorsement, right? Maybe just a little bit more. So think about who was working for her. So this guy, Joey Kent, he resigned yesterday with a big hoopla. I mean, this guy had to go out with some fireworks. Man, oh man. I mean, and a little anti-Semitism thrown in, just sprinkled on top. He actually threw it into like the second sentence in his entire thing. He blames Israel. Okay, short answer, he blames Israel. But wait till I tell you about his wife and the place that she works, because they totally blame Israel for everything. All right, I cannot, quote, in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. Joe Kent, director of the National Counterterrorism Center, said in a social media post on X. By the way, like when I first reported this, it was kind of coming in live time yesterday, and I gave you the letter, and I presented it first as a letter, and then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, no, wait, it's not a letter. The guy tweeted it. Because we're living in such a crazy world where you tweet stuff like this, because these tweets have power, these tweets have ammunition. And if you're a Joey Kent who wants to get a podcast and maybe a little spot on Tucker's show from here and there along the way, then guess what? You're going out with a bang. I mean, he already booked his first speaking assignment. No joke. Like, this guy seems like a grifter. I'm just going to say, like, seems like a grifter. You're entitled to your opinion, but his opinion has shifted so dramatically, I guess since he married the new one, that it causes me to have some serious concerns about who's actually working at DNI, right? Which, by the way, is on Tulsi's shoulders, whether you like it or not. It's like Pammy, right? She can't get away with, like, blaming everyone else. You're the one who didn't get Letitia at the end of the day. I mean, although there's still time. I'm waiting on Trump's lawyers and that whole Michael, the fixer thing. We'll talk about that maybe tomorrow. But on this one, Tulsi, you got to have better people working for you. So in this letter, he said he didn't support never-ending wars. He said that I cannot in good conscience support the ongoing war in Iran. He went on to say Iran posed no imminent threat to our nation, and it is clear that we started this war due to pressure from Israel and its powerful American lobby. Bum-ba-da! Okay, this website that his wife works for, they're all about blaming the powerful American lobbyists and all the money and, all the neocons and the Israelis that want to do this, that, and the other. So it kind of makes sense when you add it all up. Let's go to the White House talking about whether or not this guy is basically a traitor here on Fox this morning. Here is Caroline Leavitt outlining the situation ahead of Tulsi's testimony. Watch.
Trump. It's been a while. It's been a while since the president has seen him here at the White House. It's been a while since he's been involved in the process of the presidential daily briefs, and he's been actually present for the president's intelligence briefings. This was an individual who was not involved in any of the discussions pre-operation and throughout this operation. I think the president views it as deeply unfortunate that this individual, who the president gave the privilege of working for the administration, put out this resignation on government letterhead with many falsehoods throughout, essentially accusing the president of being manipulated by foreign governments. That's laughable and it's insulting. President Trump has been remarkably consistent on this issue of Iran for many, many years. Long before he ever entered politics, he has always said Iran can never possess a nuclear weapon. So anyone who works here should be well aware of the president's intentions and his peace through strength agenda and his willingness to use the United States military to achieve peace if and when necessary, as we have seen throughout Operation Epic Fury.
Okay, thank you, Caroline. So this guy was not in any of the briefings. You think maybe he got a little offended? He wasn't being included in any of the briefings. You know, one of the reasons I hear he was not included in the briefings is because people believed he was a leaker. You know, they've had some problems with some leakers over there in the White House. And the thought is he was leaking. He was leaking to his little friends. Back to why I'm worried about Tulsi. A story in the Gateway Pundit today says that former Pete Hegseth advisor who was ousted in the leak investigation, just found a new home in Tulsi Gabbard's DNI. Woo! Okay, so if that's the case, like, why do we have the Department of National Intelligence perhaps scheming against hiring the fired leftovers of Pete Hegseth's Pentagon? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Aren't we all on the same team here? Team USA? Like, what's going on? Why are there these competing interests? Why is it that it's Tulsi versus Pete? And who's Tulsi closest to? Well, this Kent guy is really close to Tucker. Just saying. And I don't think Tucker liked Pete very much. I'm pretty darn sure he didn't like Pete very much. You know why? Because a lot of these men in television, they have very thin egos. And, you know, Pete was really good looking and up and coming and had a lot of energy. And, by the way, had a way better pedigree in terms of educational background. Not that I'm a snob about those things, but I think Tucker is. And I think when it's all said and done, Tucker's not really on Pete's side. Think about that, okay? Because it's a very small circle. Oddly, I know them all. Which gives me a very peculiar kind of insight into this. Donald Trump seemingly caught off guard, saying some very lovely things about Joe Kent after he resigned yesterday. Here is the President of the United States speaking about this guy who may in fact be a real traitor. I mean, you don't leak. Not in a job like that. Here we go.
Well, I read his statement. I always thought he was a nice guy, but I always thought he was weak on security, very weak on security. I didn't know him well, but I thought he seemed like a pretty nice guy. But when I read his statement, I realized that it's a good thing that he's out, because he said that Iran was not a threat. Iran was a threat. Every country realized what a threat Iran was. The question is whether or not they wanted to do something about it. And many people, many of the greatest military scholars are saying for years that presidents should have taken out Iran because they wanted a nuclear weapon. They were, if we didn't do the attack, or if, I'll go a step further, if I didn't terminate the Iran nuclear deal given to us, one of the worst deals ever made, by Barack Hussein Obama. Remember when they sent Boeing 757s over there, loaded with cash? Hundreds of millions of dollars. You would have been very happy. This was a wonderful, they said hundreds of millions. People forget that. Does anybody remember? Right? You remember. Hundreds of millions of dollars in a Boeing 757. I think there are two of them loaded. They took the seats out and they put cash. And it was so much that there wasn't a bank in Virginia, Maryland, or D.C. that had any money left. They stripped them of all their money, put it into place, sent it to Iran, almost as ransom. That's not going to happen with Trump. And nobody ever did anything about it. Nobody ever said anything about it. Can you imagine if I did that? So they've been a threat for a long time. But they've really been a threat. If I didn't terminate Obama's horrible deal that he made, the Iran nuclear deal, you would have had a nuclear war 4 years ago. You would have had nuclear holocaust, and you would have had it again if we didn't bomb the site. So when somebody is working with us that says they didn't think Iran was a threat, we don't want those people.
No, we don't want those people, do we? We definitely don't want those people. Good riddance, right? Good thing he's out. By the way, that was a beautiful weave. You know how he says he does the weave? He came right back to the point. We knew he would, right? But we went around the mulberry bush a little bit because he had some important things to get in there. Like, look what Biden did. Look what Obama did. I'm actually taking action on this. And he's totally right. And here's the deal. The intelligence has been out there, ladies and gentlemen, for a while. And you know who knows this? My friend Dan Bongino, who was number 2 at the FBI. And he's like, wait a second, like I'm looking at the same intelligence this Joey guy's looking at, and guess what? I know how to read. Apparently Joey doesn't, or Joey is working for someone else. Again, we'll get back to that. I throw that out there. We're going to get back to it. But first, let's go to Dan Bongino erupting. Here he is with my former colleague, Laura Ingraham, there on Fox last night, and just fantastic points from Dan. Watch.
On a plaque in a facility I can't really talk about. And when you read the story there, it's a tough story to read. But, you know, again, as I've said with other, the sacrifice is beyond reproach. That doesn't mean that this current opinion is any more fact-based, because it's not. I'm really sorry, Laura. I mean, I read probably a lot more intelligence than he did, because they don't have a law enforcement function, the National Counterterrorism Center. They're an analytical clearinghouse. They're valuable. However, I had access to just about everything. And how you could come to the conclusion that the Israelis did it and there was no imminent threat here? Really? What about the anti-ship ballistic missiles, the drone program, 440 kilograms of 60% enriched nuclear material, their constant death to America chance? I mean, you know, that's called evidence. In some limited circles, we call that, you know, a clue. I mean, I don't know at what point you thought this wasn't an imminent threat after you've read a lot of the stuff I read. And by the way, that's just the open source stuff we can talk about on the air. I promise you, the president, I promise you, has a bevy of material that if he could do the Men in Black thing and erase your mind tomorrow, if he told you right now, you would come to the imminent threat conclusion in a snap.
Yeah.
Well, a senior U.S.
Yeah. Okay. And yet think about this guy, Joey Kent. He comes out with this gigantic public letter, books his next appearance. I couldn't believe this. I saw this last night on Twitter. Catholic Prayer for America. I'm all for the Catholics, okay? Go Catholic. But this is a little weird. Just confirmed. They're very proud. They got Joey Kent, who's going to be speaking with them. I'm like, how do you get a speaking gig right away? Unless maybe this was all planned. Maybe it was all lined up. Maybe he worked with his wife on getting this whole thing together. Because I'll tell you, if you go back in time and you look at Mr. Joey Kent's previous tweets and previous conversations, I'm going to show you one with another podcaster, Sean Ryan. And it really sounds to me like Joey recognized Iran as a threat all along. All along. It's just lately he decided to shift. Maybe because, you know, the Catholics were calling. They needed him to do the speaking gig. And his buddy Tucker had an opportunity for him to do a podcast. I mean, there's a lot of attractive reasons, I guess, why Joey Kent suddenly decides to not just resign, But like, woo, second sentence out, completely blame Israel. It was just a wildly sort of anti-Semitic thing to say. Anyway, let's go to Joey when he was on another podcast talking about how Iran was a threat. This was not too long ago.
They're still registering for the draft, aren't they? Like that's the logical conclusion to the direction that we're heading in right now, unless we make some serious changes.
I mean, I've already heard rumors that Fifth Group is going to be sending guys to Iraq because of the escalated situation with Iran now.
Yeah. I mean, most Americans aren't aware of it. Our troops in Iraq and Syria have been attacked 150 plus times by Iranian proxies.
But now suddenly Iran's not a threat. No, not a threat. It's just an Israel thing. Like that's what the letter says. Here we go. All these 2021 tweets talking about any discussion of Hamas and Israel without addressing the Iran and the Biden administration's desire to get back to the JCPOA is not a serious discussion. He said, like Bush and Obama, Gates fails to address Iran's role in funding every bad actor in the Middle East, including Hamas. Why? Quote, because they failed to hold Iran accountable as Iran killed Americans. Trump changed that when we killed Soleimani. Then he goes on, many of the leftists that defend terrorists in the West Bank and Gaza simply hate Israel and are anti-Semites. We have seen this play out in both the United Kingdom and here in the U.S. The left is riddled with anti-Semites. And yet, what is the first thing he does when he resigns? So let's back up a little. What do we know about Joey Kent? Well, he lost his wife in 2018, 2019 in Syria. He makes that clear as well in the letter. And gosh darn it, I sort of still thought he was a widow until I found out, no, he married this lovely lady, Heather Kaiser from The Gray Zone. It's called a website. The Gray Zone back in 2023. So the tweets I just showed you from 2021 were pre-Heather Kaiser from the Gray Zone. Gray Zone is run by a guy who actually is quite friendly with Tucker Carlson and some of these other people that really seem to question a lot of our international policy. I leave you with that little tidbit. You're welcome to look at the site yourself to get a feel for it. So they try and present themselves as like the be-all, end-all. Let's put it this way. They were on Maduro's side, okay? They're still on Maduro's side. So that's all you need to know about the Gray Zone. There's a lot of horse you-know-what there. And this lady, this lovely, lovely little looker that she is, she works for the Gray Zone. And somehow, we can't call this a honey trap, right? Because that's not a whole lot of honeypot. That's not a whole lot of honey. But nonetheless, the guy with the great hair, Joey Kent, hooks up with this one, marries her. Now, who am I to judge? Love is love. But the next thing you know, he's turning against the president at a really critical time. And this woman is writing for an organization that is always against the president at critical times, regardless of who the president is, which makes you wonder about that organization. So the administration was onto him. That's what's interesting. A Fox reporter sending this out. Senior officials tell me that Joe Kent was a known leaker and was cut out of POTUS intelligence briefings, President of the United States intelligence briefings months ago. He has not been part of any Iran planning, discussions, or briefings at all. Official also says the White House told Gabbard, so they told Tulsi Gabbard that Kent should be fired for suspected leaks. But she didn't do anything. Laura Loomer, who I want to make head of HR at the White House, because Laura's like, they got to pass a litmus test here. Laura Loomer tweeted this out a year ago, quote, wife of the director of National Counterterrorism Center retweets attacks on President Trump's Iran strikes while U.S. service members, this was when the first strikes, with U.S. service members overseas. So she's like, what's going on? Like, she was one of the first to notice this connection between the new wife and Joey Kent. So I'm just saying, you put out a letter like that at a time like this, and your wife works for the gray zone, which, like I said, you're welcome to check it out. And Max, you can thank me later. I'm sending people to your site. Well, let me just say, like, I've looked at it. I'm amused by it. It's extremely conspiratorial. And again, always on someone else's side, never the U.S. And so, you know, Max and Tucker are buddies. And next thing you know, Joey Kent's leaving. He sends out this wild tweet accusing Israel of everything. And suddenly, he's booked on Tucker's show and at the Catholic Assembly. I mean, guys, this is not Donald Trump's first rodeo. This is his second time around, okay? And he's going to see through all this. He already does. And I realize they're being polite and they're not saying anything about Joey Kent. But there's a reason he was not included in the intelligence briefings. Oh, go ask Mark Levin. Mark, who's just figured out that when he met with the president, he wondered who leaked it. It turns out it was Joey Kent who leaked it to Tucker. I mean, these people are nuts. Listen, Laura Loomer for head of HR. Laura Loomer, get her in there. Make sure that she knows who's coming in. And I'd put her in charge of Tulsi's office too. And I'm just saying, Tulsi, you know, you're out there hiring the leftovers that Pete Hegseth doesn't want anymore. And Tucker might have a little bit of, you know, a thing with Pete. Because Pete was an up-and-comer at Fox and better looking and went to better schools. And watch this, guys. Watch this very carefully. I'll tell you this. The American people are on the side of the President of the United States all day long. And CNN had to admit it. Brand new poll out. Let's go to my friend Harry Enton. I love it. Take it away, Harry.
Okay. MAGA GOP on the U.S. military action in Iran. Look at this. Nearly 9 in 10, 89% approve of the U.S. military action in Iran. That is the MAGA GOP base. Just 9% disapprove of it. This is tremendously popular among the Republican base. And of course, Marco Rubio, Secretary of State, overseeing the effort. It seems to me that a lot of people are taking that into account, including President Donald Trump, who has been smiling an awful lot at Marco Rubio lately.
You better believe it. Of course he's smiling because things are going well. Again, back to the president explaining where we are right now. Not a bad place to be.
I have Marco here. We have a lot of our great people. JD is here. They're all here. And I say, let's do this. We got to do it right. Should have been done by many presidents. Should have been done long before 47 years. It's 40 years of living in terror. You know, they're called the bully of the Middle East, but they're really the bully of the world because he used oil to bribe, right? They used oil to bribe and to, you know, gain power. I don't know what they gained. What did they gain? What the hell? How are they doing? Not so good. They're all gone now. Every one of them, they're all gone.
They're all gone. Well done. Well done indeed. And I'll tell you, as I said, the American people are on his side. And look, it's going to be harder and harder. I mean, you get 6 young men that we lost. I get it. But, you know, I know the president, and I've had this conversation with him in the past. When we were pulling out of Syria, I pushed him on it, and I was asking, and I mean, he got a little bit mad with me. He was like, and this was an off-record conversation, but he wouldn't care that I told you this. And he said, listen, like, you look at these parents in the eye. You live with yourself knowing that you've lost these lives. So he is not choosing to do this. This is not like the first, you know, go-to move. He was pushed to this point. You saw what Steve Witkoff said. I've played you that sound. Steve Witkoff said, look, we sat down and the first thing they told us was they had all this uranium and they had enhanced it by 60% and they were months away from having a bunch of nuclear weapons. And don't take Steve's word for it or my word for it. You can go back and I've played you this too, the MSNBC tape. Or MS Now, whatever the heck it is they call themselves these days. And you had the Iranian guy on there, the spokesperson saying, yep, we got all of this and we're enriching it. So this is their starting place, okay, ladies and gentlemen? Are you really going to live in a world where you're going to allow for Iran to have a nuclear weapon? No, thank you, okay? No, thank you. I don't care if you got 50 zillion Tucker Carlsons out there and all of his cronies begging to stop this war. If you have an Iran that is a nuclear threat, that is a threat to a whole lot more than, and it's awful. I really, you know, I love our military and I thank our military, and they're incredible. And they know what they're signing up for. No one deserves to lose their child. their spouse, their brother, their sister in a conflict like this. But what is the alternative? We're going to allow for more October 7th to happen. We're going to allow for Iran to have a nuclear weapon and direct the thing at us, or take over all of Europe and the Middle East while they're at it. No way, Jose. I'm not okay with that. I'm not. And anybody who is, question them. We are a great, great nation because we have freedoms. We're not about to squander it and give in to Islamic extremism as they try to promote themselves throughout the world. That is not who we are. It is never who we will be. We were founded 250 years ago with the promise of freedom, including the freedom of speech, the freedom of religion, and the freedom to prosper. Our founding fathers envisioned that if you worked hard, that you'd have a chance, right? You could raise a family, you could worship freely, and they didn't want you to be taxed to death with big government programs that would go to, all kinds of other people except for, the ones that are actually doing the work and making the money. Minnesota fraudsters, I'm looking at you. California fraudsters, I'm looking at you. Our friends at Americans for Prosperity, they know this, and they believe, like me, like you, in the pursuit of the American dream. It's a core part of what made this country so exceptional and continues to make us so exceptional. It's why I'm so proud to partner with them on the 250th anniversary of this great country. We've got a big birthday coming up. And if you believe in the American dream and you want to help celebrate with all of us, please join us here. Go to a250toolkit.com. Americans are sharing their story there about how they're keeping the American dream alive. So you can get lots of ideas. You can share your ideas, real stories about opportunity, real stories about sacrifice and taking responsibility, not waiting around for some government permission and government handouts. No, it's not who we are. So go to a250toolkit.com to learn more, to share your story, because the American dream is not about big government programs, ma'am Dami. It's about the pursuit of happiness. Iran seems to be rather embarrassed, shall we say. They should be embarrassed. I mean, they're, the regime, whatever's left of it, is definitely embarrassed, because apparently they got a cardboard cutout that they're walking around with that they got to worship now. He can't even get on TV in the moment of crisis to say, hey, everything's going to be okay. It's, kill the infidel, but we'll do it via a transcribed message that will have the woman in the hijab read on live television, because he's not been seen. So at this point, a lot of people think he's dead, which might actually be a better outcome for him at this point, because his dad never wanted him to have the job. Isn't this interesting? New intelligence by way of CBS being reported on Fox that I want to share with you here.
Bill, CBS News is citing a U.S. intelligence report that says the supreme leader who was killed on the first day of the U.S. and Israeli strikes never wanted his son to follow in his footsteps as leader. That report says the elder Khamenei was wary of his son ever taking power because he was perceived as not very bright and was viewed as unqualified to be leader, according to sources. President Trump, in speaking to NBC News, raised the possibility that the younger supreme leader could already be dead, saying, I don't know if he's even alive. So far, nobody's been able to show him. Iran's foreign minister, however, says all is well with the new supreme leader.
So apparently he's not that bright, according to his dad. He also allegedly suffers from impotence, according to our intelligence that we have on him. He's made multiple trips to London to try to cure this, but the problem may actually be rooted in something else, which is that another set of intel documents suggests that he's really not so interested in women, shall we say. No. That's the word on the street. Just check the New York Post. Anyway, I digress. That's neither here nor there, except there's a special kind of irony, if you would, that he's now running a country that would kill him if they knew of his sexual persuasion. 3 leaders down, though, these all being killed this week, and this comes on the heels of the first 2 rounds of Ayatollahs, round 1, round 2, all down. Bad guys down. Donald Trump speaking about this in the Oval Office. Watch.
The man that was responsible for the killing of 32,000 people over the last 2 weeks, he was in charge of the killing of protesters. It's an evil group. I mean, they've killed much more than 32,000 people. And the man who was responsible for that was also killed yesterday.
I saw something in the New York Post. I got to share this with you. I actually did not have it in the rundown, but I'm putting it up on screen because I got a kick out of this one. Here we go. Help wanted, says the New York Post. You got to love them. There's a certain kind of comedic effect here. New Iran leader, get excited for the last job you'll ever have. Unexpected vacancies have left the Republic of Iran seeking a motivated candidate for a supreme, in quotes, position in our government and can work from home as long as the home is a heavily fortified bunker. Preferred candidate should also have experience in public speaking, hating Jews, and Excel. Enthusiasm required someone who puts the ya in Ayatollah. DEI? Oh, no. We don't even acknowledge women exist. No endless Zoom meetings. We're evil, not that evil. Good news, you won't be replaced by AI unless AI is flying a Predator drone. Looking for someone who is a self-starter and willing to negotiate with Western infidels in a competitive workplace as fast-paced as a cruise missile. Lots of mullah. Interested? Just drop by a Tehran government office and you'll get a promotion sooner or later because we keep knocking them all off. Oh, by the way, because we're not sure this guy is alive. They have no clue. Anyway, good stuff from the New York Post. Oh, Ilhan Omar. Ilhan, she just can't help herself. Now she's trying to pick a battle with the Pentagon, for goodness sakes. I mean, granted, the little podcast that interviewed her, our thanks to Midas Touch for providing this one. I think it's them, or maybe it was just some rogue reporter. Anyway, the podcast that interviewed her has their own bias. So she kind of walked into this. But I would just say, Ilhan, probably not the best way to go right about now when you are, no joke, in danger of being deported from this country if you're not jailed for 20 years first. Watch.
Pathetic as Pete Hegseth at this point. We've been watching his press conferences. He's saying all these crazy things.
I mean, what can you say? He's always been pretty pathetic.
Yeah.
It pains me as a Minnesotan that that's the person that we have in the administration, and I just hope he gets replaced because he's an embarrassment on a national and international stage for us.
Any comment on?
Well, we kind of hope you get replaced rather soon or deported rather soon yourself. Pete Hegseth is from Minnesota, Forest Lake, Minnesota. And so they have that in common, but that may be just about it. So she's trying to say, okay, he's not very smart. I think it's like, Harvard and Princeton in his pedigree, and worked on Wall Street before he went into the military. Not that that's the be-all, end-all, but let me just say, the guy's pretty smart, okay? I worked with him for a lot of years. I know his intelligence level just based on what I saw on a daily basis. I am sure he is smarter than you, Ilhan Omar. And by the way, let's just say you're not that smart given what you did on the whole marriage. Second time around, marriage number 2 to the second Ahmed, the first Ahmed. Maybe he was the love of your life. He's the one you had the kids with, including still having kids, as I understand it, while married to this guy, which is why everybody's thinking that, maybe you committed some kind of fraud here. Doesn't even need to be your brother. No, I mean, the president thinks it is, but it does not need to be your brother, Ilhan Omar, for you to get deported. Because if you had a sham marriage, full stop, you're out. Okay, that's about as bad as it can get. We heard Harmeet Dillon, who runs the Civil Rights Division at the DOJ. She's good, by the way, but Jeanine Pirro might be even better. One of those should, if Pammy ever gets replaced, I think one of those would be really, really good at the gig. Anyway, Harmeet told us, they're looking into her. They're looking into her big time. Not my division because I'm civil rights, but I can tell you they're looking into her, and this has all been publicly reported. And then, of course, the president this week came out with this bazooka. Watch.
That means she's here illegally and she's a congresswoman. And I hope you're going to be looking at that, or somebody is, all right? Because she's one of the ringleaders here. She's bad news, really bad news. She's so bad for our country. Anyway, JD, please say a few words.
She's so bad for our country. Yeah, I mean, look, what they've got to try and prove here, what they've got to prove is that she may have had some kind of money grab in the $250 million Feeding Our Future scandal that was introduced by her and that her entire district was involved in. She has yet to admit any kind of real even concern for that. I mean, her only excuse is, well, hey, they made the money that easy. I'm sorry, Ilhan, that doesn't make it right. I mean, maybe in Somalia with the pirates, it makes it right, not here in the United States of America. So Ilhan Omar, definitely not a good time to pick a fight with the Pentagon. The president has already made this clear. He's out to find all the corruption, and that would include the corrupt fraudsters that have already gone to jail, 79 of them to be exact. The 79s just went like last week to jail there in Minnesota. One of them, by the way, worked on your campaign, Ilhan Omar. That's concerning, especially given that the hubby number 3, ran the campaign. A little too close for comfort, if you ask me. Here's the president.
Why do you suppose then that leaders in recent memory haven't looked at the systemic amount of fraud that's taking place? And
because they're crooked. They make money. They gain power. They use it for power. Like with the Somalians, they vote in a block, 100%. They make a deal with the Somalians. They all vote because they're on a gravy train. It's coming. It's money first, power second. A lot of people say power first. No, it's money first, power second. Do you ever see where like Mercedes? People come over from Somalia, they have no money, and now they're buying Mercedes-Benz cars. Okay, it's more cash goes out of the Minnesota airport than any other place in the world or so. We're going to find it. And Minnesota is really bad. The governor's corrupt. The attorney general is totally corrupt. Just like the New York State attorney general, Letitia James. She's a highly corrupt person. Bragg, the DA, is a corrupt person. They're all corrupt. These are corrupt people. And we got too many of them in our country. And we have to expose them. And we have to catch them. And if these two guys can't, these are high IQ people. I've always liked high IQ. These are high IQ people. If they don't do it, we're going to go a long way, fellas, to find somebody else that's going to. We have no choice. If honestly, and they may not do a good job. If they don't do a good job,
thank you, sir.
No, it's possible. If they don't do a good job, the country's sort of in trouble. Yes, go.
Yeah. So Ilhan, obviously, front and center in all of this. At present, there is an investigation into her husband by the House Ethics Committee. Comer has made a big deal of this, James Comer. And now you have Senator Schmidt saying, hey, we gotta move forward with this. He's been a huge critic of hers, and he wants to yank citizenship from criminal migrants. So in other words, if you came to this country and you got caught up in that Ilhan Omar feeding our future scam, then Senator Schmidt, he wants to take you down, and he's not the only one, okay? He's arguing that, you've committed fraud. You were extended this opportunity to be naturalized as a citizen, and because you've committed fraud, that actually puts you now at risk of being deported. And so that's a very interesting thing to be watching for, alongside Emmer's bill, which is over in Congress. It's the Scam Act, where they're trying to get rid of anybody as well who may have committed these fraudulent acts. And you have Marsha Blackburn, of course, in the Senate too. I mean, it's a lot, but they got to find the information first. It should not be that hard. Let's go to Comer as he was announcing this initial investigation.
I mean, it looks very suspicious when you have millions of the Somali cash just flying all over Minneapolis with no scrutiny whatsoever. Wasn't there also a vineyard involved here? The husband's involved in the wine business?
Yeah. There's a thing called money laundering where people have businesses and they deposit, lots of cash. Again, I'm not accusing them of any wrongdoing, but she should answer a simple question. If any member of Congress is asked what business their family's involved in, I've never seen one fail to answer it. That's not a hard question. My husband has a private equity firm, and he's done exceptionally well in the last 12 months. She won't answer that question. And everybody in America suspects foul play here. Right. And again, we're going to find out. It's not going to be hard to figure out what business he's in and where the money came from. So that's going to be a central part of our entire Minnesota fraud investigation, because she is the leader in Congress, in the district, in the congressional district where the overwhelming majority of the welfare fraud is taking place. Her name, as well as the Attorney General Keith Ellison's name, have been mentioned as people of interest. I'll put it like that, Jesse. So we're gonna follow through on this, and I think she's gonna have some difficult questions answered.
All right. Well,
okay, well, we want the questions answered, right? Specifically, how the heck did you get $30 million net worth? I mean, she declared it. I think she'd be smarter than to actually declare it, unless somebody said to me she had to declare that. They actually had to put a very high valuation on Rose Lake Capital, the venture capital firm that her husband had, if you wanted to be able to justify what some people might be paying for these shares in Rose Lake Capital. You'd have to put a high valuation on it. So you just make up a number because, they're paying big bucks. Well, what are they paying for? What is the company really investing in? Like defunct wineries that don't have any vineyards? What is it that's actually going on there? What are the actual businesses? So they're actually going to be able to find out a lot. And I think this guy, who's a Democratic operator, along with his business partner, who's another Democratic operator, both of whom have actually faced legal action previously because of allegations of things like fraud in their previous businesses. I mean, this is not a good set of facts for one Ilhan Omar. She ought to have a little better selection in the men she decides to marry, whether it be the alleged brother or the alleged fraudster. Maybe she'll say, oh, I didn't know, it was pure romance. I had no idea he was doing this. I mean, what a loser. The guy didn't even pay his taxes. Look at this. Forbes reported this $403,000 in back taxes for this firm. I'd like to know how it's making its money. Seriously, how is it making its money? I mean, we know how he makes his money. He works for her, and she pays him $2.8 million. Unheard of for a campaign manager. I mean, that in and of itself is hugely fraudulent, because she's effectively taken all that campaign money from anybody who will donate to her little campaign, and she's given it all back to herself vis-a-vis Timmy Minette, the new hubby number 3. Unbelievable. Ilhan, I really wouldn't tempt fate any more than you have. The UN, United Nations, is freaking out because the President of the United States has just said, well, you just showed your hand. Maybe we don't need you anymore. Oh, yeah, that was the latest and greatest 20 hours ago. And so what do you know? Actually, this was 12 hours after the president said this. You had the head of the UN saying, no, we're working on it. We're going to get some troops over there. We're going to get some fortification over there to help out in Iran. We're just figuring it out. I mean, what a difference a few hours makes after the president said, well, I'm going to show you. But first, over to the head of the UN.
Of the ballistic missiles, of the nuclear capability is severely degraded. When it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, I've been in contact with many allies. We all agree, of course, that strait has to open up again. And what I know is that allies are working together, discussing how to do that. What is the best way to do it? They're working on that collectively to find a way forward.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's very different than we want no part of this. Didn't I just play some sound from the guy who runs the UK just the other day, saying this is your problem, not ours? We've heard Spain say, hey, we don't want any part of this, right? Spain's like, this is your war, Trump. We're not signing up for any of this, but I'm sorry, Spain, you're part of NATO. I'm sorry, UK, you're part of NATO. You guys have been our allies. We've been over there breaking our backs on helping you out with Ukraine. And that's the thanks we get. I think the president's like, well, they really showed their true colors. And here's the problem with that. Even John Bolton knows that this is very dangerous. It's like somebody paid attention to what Bolton was saying. Maybe Bolton called them. He's like, you guys are on thin ice. You're going to lose all your money for Ukraine. None of it's happening if you continue with this. Listen to John Bolton, who used to run the NSC. Here he is speaking on CNN about how this gives the president carte blanche to just say, all right, sayonara. I don't need to pay for anything in Ukraine. Here we go.
But I will say, I think the Europeans make a mistake by responding to that kind of juvenile behavior with juvenile behavior of their own. a number of European leaders, including Kaja Kallas, the European Union's chief foreign policy official, have said expressly, Iran is not our war. That's a very dangerous way to put it, because it invites Donald Trump. It almost teases him to come back and say, well, okay, Iran is not your war. Ukraine is not our war. It's very dangerous to approach Trump in the same way he behaves.
Exactly. Okay. And by the way, that was Trump's conclusion just 12 hours ago or so here. Let me go back to the Oval Office where the president spoke about his disappointment in these NATO countries. Watch.
All of the NATO allies agreed with us, but they don't want to, despite the fact that we help them so much. We have thousands of soldiers in different countries all over the world, and they don't want to help us. We don't need help. That war has been long prosecuted as far as I'm concerned, almost from day one. We knocked out many of these things. We knocked out the Navy essentially in a couple of days. But I was surprised to see that NATO, while they agree that it was a very important thing to do, they agree fully. Nobody said, oh, you shouldn't do it. They would have had a nuclear weapon within 1 month of when we had the B-2 bombers bomb the nuclear potential. I call it the nuclear dust. NATO's making a very foolish mistake. And I've long said that, I wonder whether or not NATO would ever be there for us. So this was a great test, because we don't need them, but they should have been there.
Yeah, like they should have. And they weren't. And we don't forget things like this. So why are we part of this alliance? By the way, the president, he was out on True Social last night speaking about this very thing and sort of saying, I don't need you, which is why you have the head of the NATO organization trying to come out today, trying to cover himself, saying, all right, we're working on it. We're working on it, Mr. President. You're working on it. I don't think so. You guys have made this really, really clear. You're super, super anti-Semitic. I mean, Spain kind of takes the cake on that one. And, the UK is not far behind, and they have, the number one name. If you want to get elected in the UK right now, I guess you got to appeal to a certain group. It's like Minnesota. The number one name for new babies is Muhammad. Number one or number two. I mean, you can see which way the wind is blowing. So they've kind of lost control of the situation. They got an obvious problem in France, because in France, they had colonized places that had Muslim faith years ago and now offer them citizenship. And so they figured out how badly that is going for them. And so all the politicians there as well are left trying to figure out how to salvage this. And when the U.S. comes out with a bold action like this, they don't know quite what to do. Anyway, the president actually put something out. Let me see if I can find it for you on True Social, where he was sort of saying, like, who needs them, right? Who the heck needs them? Because they're not willing to do anything for us at all. And so this is the tenor of the conversation right now. I think that Europe is going to kind of have to come around. He's also sort of saying, Japan, he's meeting with them on Thursday. Japan, you all want to support us. You want us to support you, but then when push comes to shove, you're nowhere. And we got tens of thousands of troops, like 40, 50,000 over there protecting you. So does this work both ways? Maybe he'll get a little more money out of it. Maybe we can charge a little bit more for all of our quote unquote protection, since it's clearly only one way protection. Unbelievable. Hey, quick shout out to my other company, 76 Research. We've been killing it over there. I hope to goodness you guys are subscribed to this. I hope you're getting the model portfolios, because I love it if you were up the way these stocks. Look at that, up 139% in our materials pick. We had a recent stock pick we added to 2 portfolios, just a fantastic play on AI, up 124% since we added it just about 4 weeks ago or so. So if you can, please go over. I'm going to put it in the live chat as I speak. https://76research.com. Use code $, so that you get it for $1 a month for the first 2 months. But again, it's not just the 76 report you need to be looking at, but all of those portfolios, because they're dynamite. And I want you to have access to that. Kathy Hochul, she's begging. I mean, begging for those billionaires that all relocated to Florida because, I don't know, no income tax? You know, it's kind of attractive. All those billionaires that relocated to Florida, she can't make ends meet in the state of New York. And by the way, no one's going to be able to make ends meet in the city of New York City. It's just a travesty to see that thing go downhill the way it's going. But, you know, you guys, you deserve what you get. I'm sorry, I can't feel that bad for you. You're the ones that elected Comrade Mamdani. Yeah. Who I'm sure is really good friends with Joey Kent right about now. Here's Kathy Hochul absolutely panicking, totally begging. The New York Post writing on it today. Desperate Hochul begs wealthy New Yorkers to come back as Mamdani pressures her to hike their taxes. You think anybody's coming back? Nobody's coming back. You know what? Been there, done that. They're out of there. Hey, they got good weather there in Florida. They're all leaving for Miami. I mean, and if they're not leaving New York for Miami, you got the guy in Seattle. The one who founded Starbucks, Howard Schultz, he just announced that he was leaving woke Seattle for Miami too. You got Mark Zuckerberg out there in Palo Alto leaving for Miami. Why? No taxes, no income taxes, fantastic weather, lots of upside, and conservative politics. So they're all leaving, and Kathy Hochul is flipping out. I want to go to the tape. Watch.
I know New Yorkers are exasperated. They feel that everything's stacked against them. They're not getting ahead. Their rents are too damn high. Their child care costs are high. Their utility bills, and thank you to Washington, we're going to have higher prices at the pump. We already do. Everything just seems so hard for people. So I understand that frustration. You should join me in the North Country yesterday in Ogdensburg and Watertown, and people are so upset about the tariffs. Raising the cost of everything. So there is this anxiety, which is real, and we're continuing to address the affordability crisis, which I believe should be the number one priority of this legislative session. What can we do to take off some of that pain that New Yorkers are feeling that I hear about literally every day? What I want to make sure we are smart about is having a system in place where it's not just taxing for the sake of taxing, and being conscious of the fact that I need people who are high net worth to support the generous social programs that we want to have in our state. Right? Now, there are some patriotic millionaires who stepped up. Okay, cut me the checks. I mean, just if you want to be supportive, but maybe the first step should be go down to Palm Beach and see who you can bring back home, because our tax base has been eroded. So I philosophically don't have a problem. It is like I have to look at the fact that we are in competition with other states who have less of a tax burden on their corporations and their individuals. And I would say remote work changed everything. There were people who could only work in an office in Manhattan or work in New York State, and they were captives to our state. They were going to stay. We saw that that's not the case. I mean, you know, Wall Street businesses looking at Texas, they're not going there because they have a nicer governor. I know that for sure. But they're going there because of the tax rate. We have to be smart about this. But we can fund what we want to fund with what we already are taking in.
Okay, so at least she admits it. Like, that's the first step, right? At least she's not in denial, trying to say, well, you know, we're such a great place to live. You know, you're not a great place to live because you cost too damn much and there's no quality of life. And they want to defund the police. I mean, and they want to tax you all. And right? All the freebies. They want free grocery stores. They want, this is New York City, Mamdani, socialist that he is. He wants free daycare. Don't get me started on daycare, for goodness sakes. You saw what Nick Shirley's been reporting out there in California. The whole daycare business is a total fraud, and yet they want to bring it to New York City. Come on. Like, we're not dumb, all right? Mamdani, comrade, listen to him.
Amidst being in the wealthiest city in the wealthiest country in the history of the world, we already see an exodus of working and middle-class New Yorkers. So I don't have a hesitation in asking those who make the most amount of money in the city or the most profits in the city to pay a little bit more so that everyone can actually stay in this city. It's also...
Whoa. I just want to make sure that I completely, like, try and follow his logic. He's angry because people are leaving. He's angry because billionaires have figured out, gee, it really doesn't make sense for me to be in New York City when this guy wants to kill me and scratch my eyes out. Like, anybody who can will and does leave. Think about Carl Icahn. I mean, there's a whole bunch of the Citadel guys, like Ken Griffin. Everybody's leaving. And every big bank that's smart and looking ahead is opening Florida offices or Texas offices. This is the handwriting on the wall. Guess what? Everybody fled Venezuela. That's the best example I can come up with in sort of modern day times, right? They've tried communism, socialism all over the world. It never works, okay? It just never, ever, 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 ever works. And now you think you can bring in millions and millions and millions and millions of people here illegally to this country, and it's all going to be A-okay? You know, it's incredible because the Democrats, they were not always like this. They really weren't. This is all kind of new, guys. This is sort of, you know, remember back in the day when Barack Obama would tell me or tell you and tell America how important it was for, you know, people to come here legally, and he actually deported more people than anybody else. Imagine that. And yet, you know, you listen to these guys today and it's pretty disturbing. I mean, I found this clip I want to share with you of Hillary Clinton. I'm calling it Vintage Hillary. I know you don't like her very much, but, you know, she wasn't always so rabid. She wasn't always so politically motivated. You know why they're doing this, of course. They're doing this because they want to make sure for the census purposes that they have enough people in each of these given states so that they can get more people in Congress. There is a method to the madness, but let's go back in time a few years, shall we, to when she was campaigning. Here we go. Doesn't want us to see that. Let's go back again.
I think we got to have tough conditions. Tell people to come out of the shadows. If they've committed a crime, deport them. No questions asked. They're gone. If they've been working and are law-abiding, we should say, here are the conditions for you staying. You have to pay a stiff fine because you came here illegally. You have to pay back taxes. And you have to try to learn English. And you have to wait in line.
Amazing. It's amazing it's the same person. So now Donald Trump has the Save America Act, and they're all acting like it's the worst thing ever. They just cannot believe that you might actually have to show an ID when you go to vote. Even though, like, we do have millions and millions of people who came here illegally. I also found a clip of Barack Obama back in the day. Barack Obama actually saying, you know, this is not right. Here he is speaking on immigration. Watch.
You are going to learn English. You are going to go to the back of the line so that you don't get ahead of somebody who was in Mexico City applying legally. I think the American people, they appreciate and believe in immigration. But they can't have a situation where you just have 500,000 people pouring over the border without any kind of mechanism to control it.
500,000. Try what? 10, 11, 12? We don't really know because there's no actual documentation of people here. We do know that no one has been let in most recently. And we've actually deported somewhere around 600,000 people since Donald Trump has come to office. But apparently you're not supposed to do that. Apparently you're supposed to welcome all in, just like New York City, give them free hotel rooms, phones, special cards with $300 and some odd a week for the special ethnically appropriated food. Was that part of Feeding Our Future? No, because actually Feeding Our Future didn't really feed anyone, right? Except for the people that were running that organization. Unbelievable stuff. It's coming to an end right now for the Oscars. Did you guys watch it the other night at all? I never watch these shows, like ever, ever, ever. Sometimes I will see like on the news feeds, the pictures of the dresses, you know, you guys probably don't even look at that. Like unbelievably bad ratings, okay? They don't know what to do with themselves. So now they're like, by the way, who's producing this thing? The production company that's producing it, I don't know if they're going to get another contract because the networks are sitting there going, well, gee, do I really want this thing? It's like a hot potato. It's like an albatross, right? Like you do not want to have to put the Oscars on the air because chances are they're going to say something that's really, really, for the MAGA world, politically incorrect. I mean, they went on and on about free Palestine. We had to suffer through that stuff. And you know what? People turned them off. They turned them off in real time, and I'm not surprised. Take a look at these ratings. Variety, Hollywood Reporter, they're all putting out these headlines Oscars ratings hit 17.9 million viewers. By the way, that includes what they did online, all right? So not good. Down 9% from last year, lowest since 2022. And before you blame Conan O'Brien, I don't actually really think it's his fault. I think it's that nobody cares about these celebrities anymore. Nobody cares. They're irrelevant. And when they do get up there, one, they look weird. Really. Two, they're going on about stuff that is not relevant to the majority of the country. Three, most of us haven't even seen any of these movies that they're in because there's such optionality nowadays. Hey, you can be on YouTube, you can be on Spotify, you can go find all kinds of other shows in other places. So why would you go to the movies? Really? I mean, the whole star system is being just decimated. And you know what? They've maybe because they're trying to make a name for themselves, maybe because they're trying to become more relevant, they've decided, all these actors and actresses, to get into politics, which is why you had that poor Snow White girl, you know, the little ingenue from New Jersey that was really cute in West Side Story, but clearly, you know, jumped the shark. Young to jump the shark, but she did. I can't even remember her name. Rachel Zegler. Okay, little girl from New Jersey that was in Snow White that tanked that movie, that franchise, and just cost that studio an absolute fortune because nobody wanted to hear her woke viewpoints. And she didn't seem to understand that. On top of it, you know, if you're going to sit there and give us all your woke viewpoints, you better have one hell of a show. All right? That thing better be like awesome. I better love the music. I better love the actors. I better love the drama and the storytelling. And it was a you-know-what movie. Really bad. Like really, really bad. Even the kids in the audience couldn't take it. I brought my 3. They were like, get me out of here, Mom, fast. It was terrible, okay? Terrible. And she made it terrible. And now you got these Oscar shows and nobody wants to watch them. It keeps happening. So what network is going to put them on the air? If I'm ABC, I'm like, okay, I got to make some hard choices here. The new CEO of Disney, he comes in, he's replacing Bob Iger. He doesn't have any sort of duty to Hollywood like maybe Bob Iger did. This guy's a parks guy. Hey, he wants to make sure the rides are working and that they're on time. So he doesn't care about the Hollywood elites. And so I have a feeling he's going to say sayonara, and that would be a smart financial move to do. It would also be very smart, Mr. New Disney CEO, to get rid of The View, because I guarantee you it costs ABC News way too much money and nobody watches it. Increasingly irrelevant, totally irrelevant in today's day and age. You know who was onto this? Bill Maher. Bill Maher actually spotted this trend. He's like, what the heck is the Democrat Party doing with all these elite celebrities that are all funny looking and weirdos, right? Like, what are they doing? Because if you want to alienate viewers, you go back and you keep hoarding all these celebrities. These celebrities aren't doing you any favors. Let's go to Bill Maher.
Democrats really need to cut loose the celebrities. They're not helping. They don't strike people as normal because they're not. Democrats already have a problem with people thinking that they are not the common sense crowd. And then when they see, the Chappell Roans and the Billie Eilishes of the world who don't act like normal people, and then whatever they're saying just strikes everybody in America who's a normal person as, oh, God, here's more of this stuff where you can't relate to a real life.
Yeah. I mean, that's the reality, right? So nobody actually wants to watch them. And it's reflected in the ratings that you saw for the Oscar. I'm looking at your comments, guys, and some of you guys are blaming Conan O'Brien. Also, thank you, Charlotte. Charlotte is in tune with what I wear every day. I'm looking at the comments here, and this one's actually not OGA. She knows. It's a different brand. I can't actually remember it right now, but thank you for your attention to detail. I do appreciate it. I would just say, looking at what has happened with the Oscars, looking at what's happened with Hollywood, looking at what's happened with the poor company Disney. I mean, that thing was trading at $200 not too long ago, right? A couple years ago, and now look at that thing. It's a terrible, terrible, terrible stock. But you have only to look at the actors they're employing to understand why nobody wants to see this stuff anymore. It's like MSNBC.
I mean, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird.
Super
So we didn't do that this time.
So no Prince or a different kind of Prince?
We have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because like we cast a guy in the movie, right. Andrew Burnap, great dude. Yeah. It's one of those things that I think everyone's going to have their assumptions about what it's actually going to be, but it's really not about the love story at all, which is really, really wonderful. And whether or not she finds love along the way is anybody's guess until 2024. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby.
You know what? We actually didn't go and see it. Well, I mean, a few of us did, and we hated it, and we told our friends, and it was really bad. I had to go technically see it for work because we talked about it quite a bit on the air, and I wanted to at least know what I was talking about before I bashed it. But I almost knew I was going to bash it, right? Like just going into it, I had kind of a bad taste with this little ingenue from New Jersey, little Rachel Zegler, who just managed to ruin a great, great story. Incredible, right? We can't totally blame her. I mean, you got to blame the producers too, whoever wrote that. Oh, I think it was one of those really woke writers who was involved in some other really woke show, and I'm blanking on what this, what was her, I feel like her name begins with a G. Anyway, I digress. The point is, it sucked, okay? And Conan, he knows it. Like, he was quoted in the New York Post not too long ago saying he figured it out. He went on that Hot Wings show on YouTube, and he's like, wait a second, I'm looking at this thing. This guy's got a set that's like all of $600, right? The whole set is like $600 versus his, which is like $6 million. And they're able to put on this show that everybody loves. And he said, that's when I knew my genre was dead. And so, Conan, you might want to take your own advice and maybe not host any more award shows because that genre is also dead. But you know what genre is not dead? We are alive and well here on the Trish Regan Show. Please make sure you subscribe, share, like. We are live every single day, and I depend on you guys and your enthusiasm. Let me know, do you think Hollywood is over? Let me know in the chats. I always look at your messages, even if I don't respond every night. I try to make sure that I look at all of your messages, so thank you for everything you're doing. My gift back to you. I mean, really, I know it's my company, right? But I created it because I wanted more people to be able to invest in this great MAGA movement, which is going to be just so wonderful. I knew it. You know, my last show on Fox, I was so mad because the market was tanking, and I was like, this is so stupid, and people are going to lose a lot of money. And, you know, if you're smart, you're going to actually invest. When everybody's throwing in the towel, that's the time you want to get in. I was smart. I did. And some people were smart. They did, because you know what? I'm never going to bet against America and bet against this country like the Joey Kents of the world. No, thank you. Anyway, my other company is 76 Research. Go check it out at 76portfolios.com. We don't manage any of your money. We just give you our research on the companies and the sectors and the opportunities that are there in America today. Thank you for all you do to make this show a success. And I will see you right back here live tomorrow.